Hey guys! So I wanted to go over the two types of Pythagorean theorem problems that you'll encounter. And just to review, the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And the number one thing you need to remember is that c always represents the hypotenuse. So the reason why that's so important is because there's going to be two separate ways you solve it, whether you're solving for the hypotenuse or whether you're given the hypotenuse and solving for one of the two sides that are perpendicular. So when your teacher usually explains the Pythagorean theorem for the first time, they typically set up a problem where you're looking for the hypotenuse. And most students feel comfortable knowing that they can label either A or B. It won't matter whether you call, the vertical side or the horizontal side A or B due to the commutative property of addition. So once you set it up, it doesn't matter which one you plug it in for. So we'll just say 6 squared plus 8 squared equals x squared. Then you'll square both of the numbers first. And on this side, after I add them together, I'm going to get 100. And then for my last step of the Pythagorean theorem, you're always going to take the square root. And if I square root both sides, here the square root will cancel the squared, and I'm just left with x. And here the square root of 100 is 10. So I can figure out that 10 is the length of the hypotenuse. Then if I have this type of problem over here, what tends to happen is students will accidentally set it up the same way and think that they're just going to be squaring the numbers and adding them. But if you set everything up algebraically, and so let's say that's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So remember, that's always going to be c, the hypotenuse. Now, as I start to work it out, I'm going to find that in order to get my answer, I'm going to need to move 144 to the other side. So because this is always going to be addition, since that's what's in the Pythagorean theorem, to move that to the other side, you have to use subtraction. When I subtract those, I get 25, and still the last step of the Pythagorean theorem is going to be to square root both sides. My square root will cancel out the squared, and I'll get that x is the square root of 25, which happens to be 5 in this case. So the important thing to keep in mind is if you are solving for the hypotenuse, you're always going to be squaring the two numbers, adding them together, and then square rooting to get the final answer. And if you are solving for one of the other two sides, the two sides that end up being perpendicular to each other, you're going to have to do that step where you subtract after you square the numbers and then square root. So just make sure you're paying attention to whether you're solving for the hypotenuse or whether you're solving for one of the perpendicular sides. Hopefully that's helpful. Good luck.